Sienna May and Jack Wright are both popular TikTokers.
Jack Wright actually accused Sienna May of some extremely serious allegations.
Sienna May is under fire for as Jack Wright.
I put out a video that showed evidence and was very well received. Once again, I'm having to give context to a video that was put out and immediately deleted.
These videos have since been deleted.
I just realized she deleted all of her other videos, like the apologies and the defending myself. They're all gone.
I actually have my lawyer here, and then I have a video forensic expert.
Having your lawyer and the forensic guy is weird.
This is all like, now it's serious, you know, like.
Sienna has been off the internet for the past 4 months.
Sienna May finally responded, finally came back to the internet.
Sienna May Gomez is back and unbothered.
What do you mean by you hope they cancel you?
I hope they cancel me. Why? So I can be home with my family.
How is this a good idea?
Her actions after she was exposed for those actions are equally terrible.
This might be the worst comeback video we've ever seen.
So I took 5 months off of social media, and I basically just lived my life. I prayed, I ate, I hung out with family. But it was like today I was like, oh my god, like I have to post this, I have to do this, I have to stay up. Like it was fear of missing out on social media.
You just seem every single time to get worse and worse.
Actual shit that's actually happening, and social media is like this much of actual life, so.
Oh, hi there. Hello, hello, hi. It's my face again. Swoop, 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 swoop. Whew, okay, so Jack Wright, Sienna May, part 2 of the series is finally here. Now, as many of you know, not too long ago, Jack Wright accused Sienna May Gomez of allegedly SAing and assaulting him, as well as a myriad of other allegations of manipulation, gaslighting, invalidating the experience of survivors, and just overall being like a person. Allegedly, of course. Now, this is a 2-part series. If you haven't seen part 1, it's linked below. In that one, I thoroughly go over the timeline of events and deep dive into all of Sienna May's disturbing anti-apology videos, which, child, there are many, like, whew. I highly recommend you check that one to get an even fuller picture of everything that has transpired in this alarming situation. And today, we're gonna be digging into the remaining accusations made by Jack Wright, as well as Sienna May's absolutely bonkers return to social media with her asinine video, I hope they cancel me. And listen, honey, don't let this bitch get in the way of you seeing your hopes and dreams come true. If you want to be canceled, Sienna, may your wish be granted. Now, if you're seeing me for the first time, hi. I make documentaries and short films on unsolved cases, true crime, and social media influencers who abuse their power and manipulate audiences because, as I always say, it's not drama, it's dangerous. And we also dig deeper into the root psychology, and sometimes we take it to petty university, okay? Because, bitch, petty is my love language. Petty is our love language. And if you want to join the rest of the Petty University class, first of all, welcome. And you can also grab your Petty University apparel and the Petty is my love language items. We have many styles and colors. I'll have the shop linked below as always. So I'm gonna break this down into 3 parts: the complex story of Jack Wright, Sienna May's elaborate blame game, and the art of the double down denial. Now, for legal clarifications, every accusation I address is alleged. I'm not claiming it as fact, and while there is video evidence to consider for part of this, you should always form your own opinion, or not. And I will be addressing sensitive topics like rape and sexual assault, which I will abbreviate as R-word and SA because it's 2022 and we're still not allowed to openly talk about these important topics without the fear of the machine. Awesome. Allegedly. All right, this talk's gonna be intense, so you know the usual drill. Strap on in. But real quick, I want to give a huge thank you to today's sponsor, HelloFresh, who I absolutely love. So I don't know about y'all, but I feel like now is the busiest I have ever been in my whole life. Like, there are always a million things to get done, and the idea of having to plan my meals and grocery shop and cook every day is just like one too many stresses. And on top of all of that, your girl sucks at cooking, which is why HelloFresh has been a game changer for me for over a year now. HelloFresh is the best meal kit that delivers fresh, delicious foods, step-by-step easy recipes, and fresh, pre-measured ingredients ready to go from the farm right to your front door, so so you can savor every last second of summer without the stress, and it saves you money. And the food is seriously so delicious. Like, I just cooked these one-pan mango salsa pork tacos with cilantro and sour cream one night, and these melty Monterey Jack burgers with onion jam and crispy garlic potato wedges the next. What? I cooked that. Me. Bing! Every single dish has been amazing, and this is perfect for families and kids as well, and makes back to school season way less stressful. And it's fully customizable. You can choose from over 55 weekly delicious dishes, customize your box by swapping out proteins or sides. The meals are ready in 30 minutes or less, and with options like meat, veggie, pescatarian, fit and wholesome meals, you can stick to your health goals. And you can update your address in seconds in case you're traveling and still want to get your box. And my favorite part, HelloFresh is up to 72% cheaper than eating out or grocery shopping, and the pre-portioned ingredients means way less food waste, and nearly all of the packaging is recyclable. So if you want to save time and money and the joy of not having to think about your meals and skipping the grocery store, go to HelloFresh.com and use code SWOOP16 for 16 free meals across 7 boxes and 3 free gifts. Oh, we love gifts. So go to HelloFresh.com and use code SWOOP16 for 16 free meals across 7 boxes and 3 gifts, and treat yourself, honey. You deserve it. Okay, back to the doc. And once again, I want to thank all of y'all for continuing to watch these docs and checking out the sponsors week after week and clicking on them, which encourages them to keep sponsoring more of these docs, which is what enables me to make these in the first place. Y'all probably know they take a massive amount of time and resources to produce, but most importantly, I am just so grateful for all of you showing up in every single one. I want to make sure to always be grateful for all of you because you give your time here to watch these and to be part of the Petty University community. And today I will be donating a part of the sponsor proceeds to RAIN. It's an amazing anti-SA organization. Okay, class is in session.
Before I start, I stand with what I said in the last video. I did not sexually assault Jack Wright.
Okay, while this is part 2 of the series, it's been a while since I've posted part 1, so I wanted to give a quick refresher on the people involved and look at some of the most problematic issues as they unfolded. So Jack Wright and his twin brother James were born on March 29th, 2003, making them 19 years old as of today, and Sienna Mae was born on January 16th, 2004, making her 18. Both have careers in social media, amassing millions of followers on TikTok, and eventually being recruited, I guess, to join the Hype House in Los Angeles, California. Now, Jack and Sienna first met in high school, and Sienna initially became close friends with Jack's brother, James. Now, fast forward to an interview Sienna had in Los Angeles where Jack and Sienna became closer and began to post TikTok content together starting around October of 2020. Now, since the internet's gonna internet, people started speculating that these literal teen children were dating. Now, I'm gonna be real with y'all. These two may have baited their supposed relationship. Likely it was, I think, probably with the encouragement of a PR team of adults who would have seen this as very lucrative for them. And so they, like in particular Sienna, were sort of like dangling it over the heads of their fans, like a little carrot, with videos like, "Am I dating Jack Wright? Our first date, surprise date night with Jack Wright," etc., 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 until it came out that their relationship, or like situationship, baiting ship, I don't know, bitch, okay, whatever the kids call it these days, it came out that it was a PR stunt, allegedly. Now, were there possibly some feelings between the two of them during all this? But things took a turn when one of Jack's friends posted a video in the summer of 2021 alleging that Sienna had SA'd Jack on multiple occasions. Now, Sienna went on the offensive in a horrifying way.
Once again, I'm having to give context to a video that was put out and immediately deleted.
Aggressively denying the claims and invalidating Jack's experience, and honestly the experience of like every other survivor on the planet, in video after video after video. And in January 2022, Jack Wright put out a kind of a final definitive statement in a video titled "What Sienna Mae Did to Me," accusing Sienna of multiple instances of SA and abuse, and it got over 21 million views. So Let's dig deeper.
Hey guys, I've heard the messages from many of you and I'm deeply sorry for any offense caused. I'm young and I'm still navigating the world and this industry.
Okay, now I want to go over some of Jack's statements in the video that he posted. I know I referenced some of the segments in part 1, but that was mainly in response to Sienna's side of things, and now we take a deeper look at Jack's story. But I do want to be sensitive with this given the nature of what he is sharing, and I don't really want to go like word for word dissecting it, as that would feel just weird and inappropriate. Instead, I want to cover a few points with some additional digging and research I did surrounding the nature of what Jack talked about, and then of course we'll get into Sienna's other responses. Now, before we dig into the nitty and the gritty, I do want to, give a shout out to the elephant in the room that those hell-bent on denying Jack's experience seem to dwell on for reasons? I don't really know. It doesn't matter, but I am talking about the cuts throughout Jack's video.
It's been very hard. I want to start off by saying, I just want to say thank you guys so much for your support.
I'm gonna say this with my whole petty ass chest. Yes, there are many cuts. What the difference does that make? I can't even get words out because it doesn't. A survivor who is willing and able to tell their story can take as many days, weeks, years, decades as they need in order to tell their story. Like, yes, you can tell the camera position changes. Yes, you can see that the time of day and lighting changes, but you know what hasn't changed? Jack's story. Isn't that what's important? And really, he may have sat down to film this several times that day or over the course of a few days. It doesn't matter. Him taking the time to tell his story and cutting it together makes it clear that he's trying to provide as much information and detail as comfortably possible, essentially putting himself through the trauma of reliving the experience over and over to have it as complete of a recollection as possible for the internet to consume. Because if the internet is going to do anything, going to try to poke holes.
This all started when my friend came out with a tweet because he was worried about me. He actually witnessed a bunch of times what Sienna did to me.
So let's recap a bit of the timeline from part 1. This whole story first went public with a tweet made by Mason Rizzo accusing Sienna May of SAing Jack, as well as telling Jack to unalive himself and other instances of abusive behavior.
After Mason's tweet, their family reached out to our family, told Mason to take down his tweet, and he did.
According to the statements then made by Mason, Jack, and Sienna, they all said that the families wanted to handle this offline, and Mason deleted his tweet, and Sienna's post was gone within 48 hours.
My statement was confirming the tweet, it was the truth, and basically that we're handling it offline now. Sienna posted her own version of the statement and said she was gonna handle it offline.
But then, instead of keeping it offline, Sienna posted an 8-minute long diatribe where she not only refused to apologize, but blasted Mason and Jack for not keeping it offline, when she was, in fact, the one who brought it back online, not them. So, like, cool.
Once again, I'm having to give context to a video that was put out and immediately deleted. Before I start, Jack has not spoken on the situation, and his friends keep dropping cryptic and non-specific information. The initial tweets, as well as the video that I am talking about right now, have been taken down.
So she essentially gaslit Jack right from the start, like claiming she'll handle this offline, which of course she'd want it offline. What alleged abuser wants this public? But once she manipulates the situation and got them to take their post down, she turns around and does the opposite, going online, blames them for it, and accuses them of deleting evidence by them deleting their own posts that she wanted them to delete. Bitch, I am exhausted, okay?
After that, she basically posted an 8-minute video invalidating my feelings, saying untrue stuff about me, about my friend and my brother. I think the most hurtful thing is that what she did to me, she said it was untrue. That hurt a lot.
If you present evidence of somebody being assaulted, don't you think you should stand by it? And it looks a little suspicious when you immediately remove it from the internet. The evidence is evidence. You don't delete evidence.
I am telling y'all, the lies and deceit, Miss Liza Minnelli has entered the chat, and that bitch don't make time for nobody, okay? F around and find out with Miss Liza.
Hang on, honey, here we go.
So Sienna's video was pretty awful. I already discussed that video quite a lot in part 1 of the series, so if you haven't watched it, again, I highly recommend it because it really sets the tone for the deflection and manipulation tactics that Sienna doubled down on. It's almost like an art form for her.
It's currently 2 a.m. and I've been listening to everyone around me tell me what to do all day and what I shouldn't say, and I basically just want to come on here because I'm not making an apology video. This is more of a statement.
And many of her deflection tactics I found to be particularly harmful to, I don't know, literally any survivor of SA or abuse.
This video is proof of nothing and instead raises more questions about Jack's issues and his friends' behaviors. Jack, if you really feel like I sexually assaulted you, why didn't you report me? Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you come out with these claims months ago? Why didn't you stop hanging out with me every day? Why didn't you say anything till now?
I mean, like, it was kind of textbook gaslighting, in my opinion, victim shaming and blaming, and all candy coated with a heavy dose of, but I loved him, I was so good to him, which, as you might know, is a common manipulation tactic abusers use against their victims. So here were some of the highlights to paint the picture.
Nights and the nights that you had no motivation, and I would go and I would clean your room and I would get you food and I would be there for you as a good friend because I cared about you so much. I'm so sorry that this happened to you. I've never been somebody that let my guard down easily, but this has gotten to a point where my name is being dragged in the mud and I am going to stand up for myself and tell the truth.
And at the end of Sienna's anti-apology video, she finished by threatening Jack that, quote, karma is real.
I believe you guys deserve to know the truth, and although I'm not a perfect person, I'm working towards becoming the best version of myself, and karma is real.
We love to see an alleged abuser post an 8-minute attack video, gaslighting the victim, and finishing with a threat. Bravo, Sienna and/or publicist. Bravo. Way to go. You did that. But I will say, perhaps one of the most damning parts of Sienna's first video was when she demanded that Mason post whatever evidence he thought he had, saying this.
Mason, I loved you as a brother, and I'm sorry that I have to do this, but you took it too far, just like you always do. Mason, you posted false claims and you slandered my name, and we all know that none of this is true. Whatever evidence you think you have, either post it or send it to me and I'll post it, because you have nothing. Actually, keep posting things, because we both know that's not true, and my legal team is gathering evidence as we speak.
Whoo-cha! Girl, don't make threats you can't back up, honey, because after she made this demand, we all saw what happened, right? Jack's friend, Laughlin, posted the now infamous evidence video of what appears to be Jack allegedly passed out asleep on the couch, Sienna on top of him, kissing, straddling, and allegedly groping him in front of his friends. Allegedly. I mean, my eyes see what they see, you know, but we'll still call it allegedly.
After that video, another one of my friends came out with the video when I was at a party, like passed out on the couch. When they told me about what happened, they said they pulled her off of me. My twin, a friend, and another friend got in an argument with Sienna saying, you can't do that. Jack doesn't like you like that.
Now here's where things really start to become even more alarming in terms of the conversation around how male victims are often treated compared to female victims when it comes to SA. Now, of course, trans and non-binary survivors have another subset of uniquely horrible challenges, but for this video, primarily be discussing the difference between male and female survivors. Now, most of us are aware that in general, survivors by default are not believed. I've talked about this quite a lot in like my Creepshow Art series. Here are some quick fun facts. When survivors come forward to disclose SA, they are frequently met with more questions than support in our communities. As a result, silence can be a form of survival. We often expect SA survivors to show just enough emotion for us to believe them, but not so much that they seem hysterical or attention-seeking. The timing of the disclosure should be just right, or we question why they didn't come forward soon enough. That sounds quite familiar, doesn't it, Sienna?
Jack, if you really feel like I sexually assaulted you, why didn't you report me? Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you come out with these claims months ago? Why didn't you stop hanging out with me every day? Why didn't you say anything till now?
Not only did Sienna blame Jack, the victim, and shame him for not coming forward on her time, which Her time does not fucking matter. The only time that matters when it comes to a survivor sharing their story is their time, but because her videos were viewed millions and millions of times, she instantaneously perpetuated the atrocious stigmas placed against survivors that if they don't come forward in some bullshit predetermined amount of time, that must mean it never happened. The timing of the disclosure should be just right, or we question why they didn't come forward soon enough. They should be model citizens, or we question their credibility. If intoxicated at the time of SA, we question their memory, and if sober, we question their choices. The Goldilocks dilemma of being the perfect victim or survivor is extraordinarily difficult to navigate. It's little wonder many victims wait decades to come forward or decide not to report an SA at all. Now, not only are survivors rarely believed, especially not at first, which is one of the main reasons survivors often don't feel comfortable ever coming forward, but there's another layer here in that people especially don't believe that men can be the victims of abuse at the hands of a woman or another man. So after the video evidence was released and subsequently deleted, what happened next? Well, Sienna happened all over our screens in ways not even the devil himself could have predicted.
That night she posted a 15-part aggressive video gaslighting everything about what happened, how much she loved me, and that I was using her for clout, which was all lies.
After the initial claims that were falsely made by Mason Rizzo, I put out a video that showed evidence and was very well received because people could see the true intention. Before I start, I stand with what I said in the last video. I did not sexually assault Jack Wright, and I am a victim of continual attempts to cancel me and slander my name with false claims. It will not work. We need to make an announcement. We're not dating. We've known each other for 7 years.
Okay, now we're gonna get into a little bit more of the SA itself, the pattern of behavior and the long-term effects of experiencing this trauma. Again, I'm not gonna go through Jack's video as a play-by-play like I ordinarily would do, but I want y'all to hear Jack tell his story in his own words.
So the first incident where Sienna crossed boundaries, it was after filming. We went into the room, I was just chilling on my phone on the bed, and she got naked, like completely naked, nothing on, and straddled me when I was literally just chilling on the bed.
I know it's uncomfortable, but just for a moment, put yourself in Jack's shoes. So imagine you're on your bed, just hanging out, and your platonic friend of the opposite sex, who you clearly have felt safe with in your friendship, enters your room completely naked and straddles you. There has been no lead up. They have completely crossed the boundary and have physically and psychologically overpowered you by literally placing their naked body on top of you, making it so you can't even move without touching them in some way. Like, I don't know about you, but that friend sounds like an aggressor, and that friend is a whole ass lie. Like, we saw something similar in Jessie Smiles' essay story that she shared, didn't we? Like, in that instance, it was a man violating a woman and he was charged for things. In this instance, the gender roles are reversed and there's a whole just brick ton of people refusing to believe that Jack didn't want it. A brick ton. I don't know what that is, but it was a lot. The age-old, "Are you kidding, bro? That's dope. I wish some chick did that to me. You know you wanted it." Shitty McShittlebits justification.
I kept on saying, "Sienna, stop, get off." I didn't want to be aggressive. I didn't want to hurt her, you know? So I pulled her off of me, and it took a couple tries because I didn't want to be too rough.
So I want to take a second to really highlight what Jack says here.
Because I don't want to be too rough.
This really stood out to me and honestly twisted the ever-loving fuzz out of my heart for a couple of reasons. One, Jack is trying desperately to explain that he was trying to get out of a situation where he was not the aggressor, but he knew that if he yelled or pushed her off, that narrative would have been twisted on him. You know, suddenly he's the violent guy who shoved the poor, innocent, naked person off of him. Two, this really highlights how often male or non-binary victims victims of SA are automatically viewed as the aggressor just based on BS factors like body size, physical characteristics, and age. Boston area R Crisis Center survivor speaker Jim Holland explains what prevented him from seeking out help after being SA'd, saying this: "With male survivors, there's definitely an extra set of issues that you have to deal with in terms of not wanting to tell your family and not dealing with your emotions. You're supposed to be strong, so how could you let somebody overpower you like that?" You know, let's call it what it is. This was assault. Sorry, Sienna, someone had to say it. Allegedly. And despite the fact that he was the victim, Jack was working overtime to try and find a way to remove himself from the situation without causing harm to Sienna, the aggressor. And even though he was trying to be polite about it, like so many of us feel compelled to be, and do everything in his power to keep the proverbial peace, he was putting himself in more danger to avoid the male aggressor rhetoric that was bestowed upon him since birth.
And I went out of the room, and that was like the end of it. The next morning, where she was like, "I'm so sorry for doing that. That was, I don't know what went through my head." I had to clarify again that I didn't like her that way. We were just friends.
While Sienna doesn't sound like she fully grasped the severity of the situation, she did acknowledge that it was wrong and this should have been the end of it. But, you know, here I am making a 2-part series about this, so clearly it wasn't the end of it. Thanks, Sienna. Now, Jack goes on to detail multiple other assaults that he allegedly experienced at the hands of Sienna, with some requiring his friends to quite literally pull her off of him. I don't know how else to make this clear. Sienna was the aggressor, allegedly, except that there were multiple witnesses to back Jack up. So maybe not allegedly, but you know, still allegedly, because I have to cover my ass.
And then that night she would do stuff to me, and it was just so normal for me. I got used to it, which sucks. I feel like no one should have to go through. It's real. I almost felt like I owed it to her for some reason.
As a survivor, this was the part of Jack's video that really hit home for me. Sienna had been methodically breaking down Jack's will for months, if not years, prior to this, by constantly crossing his boundaries and constantly apologizing and love bombing. She wormed her way into Jack's mind and convinced him that he kind of owed it to her. You know, she was such a good friend who cared about him so much. It was the least he could do. And with all of this, I would just ask anyone who doesn't think that this matters the following question. What if the roles were reversed? What if it was a woman saying this about a man? Here, I'll read back what Jack said as if this were my story as a woman. And then that night he would do stuff to me and it was just so normal for me. I got used to it, which sucked. I feel like no one should have to go through it. I almost felt like I owed it to him for some reason. So when you hear a woman say those words, does it change how you feel about what happened? Now, if you want to learn more about the details of what exactly Jack experienced at the hands of Sienna, allegedly, I encourage you to watch his video. I know some people commented back when I did part 1, like, oh my gosh, who cares? That happened a whole month ago. That was so long ago. Like how long is their story valid? A week? A month? A day? Like, people saying these stories, like this drama is old, are, to me, they're just perpetuating the stigmas that a survivor is supposed to understand what happened to them instantly and needs to get over it just as quickly, and their stories shouldn't continue to be heard because who cares? That was a whole month ago. Which is why, you know, all of this time has passed, I still decided to put out this part 2, as I promised I would. Now with that, out of respect for his story and experience, I'm going to move on from this to another segment with this one final note. Jack details at least 10 different instances of SA, harassment, and gaslighting in this video alone, and I freaking shudder to think, yes, I'm taking it old school, and like, when is that, the 1800s? I shudder to think of what other instances may have happened that he is not revealing to the public. Remember, we are not entitled to all of the details, and Jack himself even goes on to talk about the impact this has had on him.
It feels humiliating. You feel like you have no power, you have no control in the situation. You feel I don't know, it's horrible. I just want to start off by saying that I didn't stay silent in this situation over these last couple months. I talked to my friends, my family, my parents, counselors, and I was able to process everything. I don't think I'll ever be the same person I was before Sienna.
We're gonna dive into Sienna's response, the fallout, and the impact of this on the greater public in a second. But first, I just wanna say, like, if you or someone you know is experiencing SA, DV, or harassment, please reach out to RAIN's 24-hour hotline. You can call or text 1-800-656-4673. I just want you to know I believe you, I love you, and you deserve to feel safe and to share your story if you want to. Okay, back to the doc.
I unequivocally deny the allegations that I sexually assaulted Jack Wright. I am not making an apology video. This is more of a statement.
Now, shortly after Jack released his video in January, Sienna's legal representative issued a statement to ABC News, and this shit is just glorious, like the stuff of legends. So hold up, I think Professor Petty needs a moment, okay? Okay, so everybody get your grad caps on. This is gonna be a project. All right, so let me read a snip from her representative statement. There has been no police investigation, not even a police report to our knowledge, no charges, no private lawsuit, and no contact between Sienna and Jack or their respective legal teams in many months. Okay, you know, Becky, listen, Becky. Like, there has been no police report or lawsuit, so like, that must totally mean that Sienna did nothing wrong, right? Otherwise, Jack would have filed. Okay, case closed. Right, Becky? Rebecca, I'm talking to you. I don't know where that voice comes from. Round of applause for Sienna again and her PR team. Congratulations. By pointing out that Jack has not filed a police report, you just successfully outlined the way the vast majority of SA victims feel they have to handle their trauma. In silence, out of fear from people like you. Guess what, asshats? I didn't go to the police after I was groomed and SA'd, so how does that make you feel? Do you like to attempt to invalidate me as well? Might as well, right? It'll be fun. If the Sienna Mays of the world and the people who represent them want to try to tell folks that SA never happened to them because they didn't report it, then please feel free to meet me at the local Starbucks so we can grab a cup of half-calf frappuccino and I can punch you straight in the balls. Swoop didn't wake up today and choose violence. Swoop was born for violence, bitch. Allegedly. Now, back to the statements, they continue on with some more gems like this. Unfortunately, Jack Wright continues his campaign to slander Sienna Mae Gomez with his further false accusations. His latest falsehoods in the highly edited video. What in the unnecessary Megan Fox and Machine Gun Kelly relationship interviews? Can y'all please stop doing these interviews? No one cares. What does that even mean though? Highly edited. Also, why do they get to say things as statements of fact and not have to say allegedly? I gotta say allegedly, bitch, you should have to say allegedly too. Allegedly. Okay, I'm pissed off by these allegedlys. I'm gonna say it probably 20 more times just to make sure I'm cool. But like, back to the cuts. You mean the cuts to keep his story concise because this is probably extremely difficult for him to relive and be this vulnerable and share for literally 20 million people? Those edits? That's what you're talking about? These types of statements, though they appear subtle, it's meant to degrade and diminish, invalidate, and cause doubt in the victim's story, implying that he must be hiding something. Oh my gosh, he hid stuff in the cut, except he cut it out. So like, bitch, hiding what? You know, like, it's his own video on his own channel. If he had something to hide, he simply wouldn't film himself saying it. Y'all would have thought Sienna's PR team thought they were so clever they caught Robert Durst right now or something.
Kill them all, of course.
Okay? I'm sick of talking about these damn cuts. Let's continue. In his latest falsehoods in the highly edited video show that once again Jack is making a calculated action to hinder, hurt, and harm not only Sienna's reputation and livelihood, but her as an individual human being as well. Jack's false claims that Sienna at any point broke and entered his home or SA'd him are accompanied by hurtful innuendo which attempt to degrade her character even further than his falsehoods already do. So what Sienna's PR team are clearly doing here is setting up a potential case for defamation. Like, y'all saw part 3 of my Creepshow Art series where I interviewed Emily Artful. I highly recommend you watch it if you haven't. She's amazing. I go quite in depth about how defamation lawsuits work, how to prove defamation, and the fact that they are extremely difficult to prove. Like, here's a recap. I think most of us have heard at one time or another that defamation is difficult to prove, but most people don't know why. So let's start with a quick definition. Defamation is a statement that injures a third party's reputation. The tort of defamation includes both libel, which is written statements, and slander, spoken statements. In California, a plaintiff must prove 5 elements to establish a defamation claim. An intentional publication of a statement of fact that is false, that is unprivileged, that has a natural tendency to injure or which causes special damage, and the defendant's fault in publishing the statement amounted to at least negligence. So in order to prove defamation, not only do you have to meet all those criteria, but you also have to prove intentional, malicious, irreparable damage to Sienna, not just in her career, as a person. So that's why you see statements like hinder, hurt, and harm Sienna as a human being, and attempt to degrade her character as a person. They're putting it on record now in case they try to pursue legal action later. That's purely why it's worded like that. It's not only incredibly difficult to prove that depth of malice, which her attorneys know, but when dealing with a victim of alleged abuse, you would have to prove that Jack not only didn't believe that he was SA'd, but that he did in fact know he never was and intentionally lied about it all. And unless y'all got a recording of Jack maniacally laughing like an evil villain, just rubbing his hands together saying that this never happened.
You still got it, Bob.
Then I don't see how you'll ever win a defamation case, because I do believe that Jack believes this happened to him. There is video evidence. There are witnesses. Now, through all this glorious crunch and munch, Jack responded with this statement. I believe Sienna is struggling to face the truth and the harmful, painful choices she's made. Every word in my video is the truth. Listen, bitch, listen, okay. Someone needs to give Jack's PR person a raise, because that shit is eloquence in a damn bottle, bitch. You could sell that like perfume at at least a mid-level department store, okay? JC Penney, bitch.
I just wanted to express some things that were not sitting right with my spirit.
Okay, class dismissed.
Once again, I'm having to give context to a video that was put out and immediately deleted. And I am a victim of continual attempts to cancel me and slander my name with false claims.
Now, before we dive further into the shit sandwich that is Sienna's response, let's talk about male SA victims and why we don't really hear about them often. Remember, so let me put the myth of the male victim, or whatever you want to call it, to rest. Men can be victims of SA. That's it. I don't have anything else to add to that. In fact, at least 1 in 6 boys are SA'd before their 18th birthday, and this number rises to 1 in 4 men who experience SA during their lifetime. To wrap your head around those numbers, picture a large college football stadium filled with 100,000 seats. If the audience was solely male, that would mean at least 25,000 men have been or will be SA'd. That is a lot of men. That's a lot of people, period. And it only gets worse from here. While most female presenting or identifying victims of SA are rarely believed, thanks to the perception that women are just alluring things to be had, male victims experience kind of the opposite effect. Some men who have survived SA as adults feel shame or self-doubt, believing that they should have been strong enough to fight off the perpetrator. We've We've all heard of toxic masculinity and how the rise of the alpha male have listened to men call those in their circle that they are weak, the P word, and generally humiliate anyone that goes against the manly image they've been raised with. Andrew Tate, I'm coming for you next. If you combine that with the already minuscule chance that anyone will report their SA or abuser, we're looking at a losing battle. But that's why Jack Wright's decision to speak up and tell his story is so different. The fact is that only 5 to 20% of all victims of SA actually report the crime. The percentage for male victims is even lower. Feelings of shame, confusion, and self-blame leave many men suffering in silence after being SA'd. And like, to kind of flip that number to give a little more perspective, even like if we took the high end, let's say 20%, which is not even probably close, but let's say 20% of men did report, that means 80% of actual abusers completely get away with it. Like, I think sometimes it's better to focus on the stats of how many abusers don't get reported versus how many survivors report. You know what I mean? Let's put it on the abuser for a second. And that's a shit ton of people doing terrible things that never get reported. Now, given that we are talking about SA at the hands of a woman, I did some digging to understand how that could impact the victim versus being assaulted by someone of the same sex or gender. According to oneinsics.org, the confusion comes from focusing on the S aspect rather than the abusive one, the exploitation and betrayal by a more powerful, trusted, or admired person who can be a child or adult. In reality, premature, coerced, or otherwise abusive or exploitative S experiences are never positive, whether they are imposed by an older sister, sister of a friend, babysitter, neighbor, aunt, mother, or any other female in a position of power over a boy. At minimum, they cause confusion and insecurity. While Jack is breaking the cycle by speaking out, and he's certainly not alone in his experience, sharing your story and going public as a survivor is incredibly challenging and can have serious long-term effects when it comes to one's mental health and trauma response down the line. Now, that doesn't mean it's always a negative experience. It's important you know that. Sometimes it can be very positive. For me, it has been quite healing being able to share a little bit of my story with all of you in our community. Post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, is a mental health condition that causes a variety of troubling symptoms in the aftermath of a traumatic event like SA. Not only can you experience symptoms of PTSD after being SA'd, it's almost expected. In fact, one study showed that almost 70% of SA survivors experience significant levels of trauma, 5% reporting symptoms in line with PTSD. So all that talk about, oh, Jack didn't come forward fast enough, or Jack cut up his video way too much. Yeah, maybe he's just plain old-fashioned traumatized. You ever think about that, Rebecca? Sorry if you're Rebecca. I'm not picking on you. Yeah. Whether or not you want to believe that a woman can SA a man, that's what we're dealing with, allegedly.
I decided to take a month off of social media due to the negativity surrounding my platform.
So now that we've heard what Sienna's legal team had to say, and we've heard Jack tell his story, let's take a little trip down my favorite river, denial. Sienna, girl, just come here. Just bring it in. Let's get personal, honey. I just want to tell you something woman to woman. Jack's silence is not an excuse to bark any louder or longer. Like, you release 2 to 3 angry, attacking, victimizing, shaming, and literally threatening videos, making demands, gaslighting, manipulating, and again, threatening, and then wonder why he hasn't come online to address things on your demand schedule. And in the same breath, Sienna, you keep saying that you tried to handle this offline and this shouldn't be public, yet you blast Jack for not making a public statement and blast his friends for removing the evidence from public view. So which is it? Either you want this handled offline and accuse them of making it public, or you want it public and accuse them of deleting evidence and not making public statements. You got that? You good? Look, now I read Sienna's Medium post. I did the work, like y'all know I did, and honestly, I'm unimpressed. Besides this being a 15-minute read, and that's if you read quickly, this entire article is a masterclass in deflection and blaming the victim with a little bit of ageism tossed in for good measure. Because I swear, a bitch done come to dinner with the whole grain, gluten-free, sugar-free audacity, and she is out here spitting a web of lies faster than a Shane Dawson half-baked apology. But I didn't say that. 4 days after turning 18, my former friend Jack Wright, the one I've been tangled with in a toxic web of accusations and internet tea, posted a 17-minute video about me. Honestly, if I had a quarter for every time an abuser called a survivor's statement tea, or a false accusation, or like whatever buzzword is currently trending at the moment, your girl would have bought the Ace family foreclosed mansion, okay? I'm rich, bitch! Now, the article has just started, and already Sienna is trying to convince the reader that this isn't even important. It's just a bunch of internet drama, the tea, and y'all know what I have to say about that. Say it with me. It's not drama. It's dangerous, Sienna. Minimizing the story of a survivor is quite frankly the lowest of the low, but to attach it to your birthday? The day when you legally became an adult in the United States? You can mention your age 1 million times, which Lord knows you have mentioned your age in like every one of your videos and in this thing so many times, but that doesn't change the fact that you are responsible for your actions. And considering you're the aggressor, alleged aggressor, talking about how that soiled your super sweet 18 is just, who cares? Like, what if you just I don't know, didn't climb through people's windows uninvited, naked, and pin someone in their sleep? You know what, actually, this seems like a good time to bring out the wonderful wheel of deflection. We haven't taken her for a spin in a while.
Deflection.
All right, so to be fair, and so that we can really give Sienna a fighting chance, let's go over what deflection even means. Deflection is altering and sidetracking the blame and focus from oneself onto others, just for the sake of protecting one's self-image. So deflection could look like, I don't know, like some blaming like some slow drivers for making you late when you just slept in, or on the serious side, saying that someone else committed the act you're being accused of, just so that you don't get in trouble, okay? Casey Anthony, I'm looking at you, girl. So Sienna is out here saying that she was a young adult and she can't possibly be held responsible for her actions. She didn't even know what consent meant. She's essentially a tiny child. You wouldn't be mad at a child, right?
None of my business. It's none of my business.
Sienna. What exactly are you trying to say? Are you a savvy young adult businesswoman with a social media empire? Or are you a little kid that doesn't know right from wrong? Because according to an expert, deflection also occurs in adult relationships where an abusive partner may use gaslighting or emotional manipulation to deflect their negative feelings and faulty beliefs onto their partners. People who deflect their thoughts, feelings, beliefs, and actions are highly manipulative. Their aim is to have a clean self-image and social regard. Last time I personally checked, placing the blame on someone else to save face is a little more complicated than pointing a finger and shouting, "They did it!" And considering the human brain can develop a sense of right and wrong at the ripe old age of 1 year old, I'd say that you had enough time to figure your shit out and put those lessons into practice. But what do I know, okay? So as you can see, First for LA says that infants learn right and wrong through experience. Then between the ages of 1 and 3, they rely on their parents to identify morality, finally coming to their own personal sense of right and wrong between age 4 and 5. But we're not done with our little game of deflection here. We've still got some time for crimes, honey. I wish I was joking. In a video titled, "I Hope They Cancel Me," posted in June 2022, a little bit ago, Sienna makes her return to the internet. I guess this is like the official return. And I'm just gonna put this here. Okay. Because what better way to prove you're an adult that understands the scope of her actions than by lip syncing to a song and dancing in a bikini on the beach with your friend? Yeah. Girl, did she license this song? Does the writer know that it's being used for this? Cause like she did the exact same thing in her last like bullshit anti-apology dance where she illegally used a Sam Smith song for the entire video without the publisher's consent or licensing. And if she did license this song, why in the whole grain grilled cheese with a side of honey baked ham comfort food audacity made the artist go like, yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, that's a good idea. So yeah. You know, just so you don't waste your time watching it, her return video is essentially filled with about 90% bare ass and the bare ass of some random other person where Sienna actually slaps the other person's ass in a video response to being accused of S.A. make it make sense. Or don't, because fuck all of this, honestly. Like, I don't even have time or the energy at this point. Like, I hope they cancel me. May the odds be ever in your favor and you get all the things that you wish for. Given that this story is constantly being updated and new information is always coming out, I want to take a second to talk about the absolutely dumpster fire disaster BFFs podcast that Sienna and her legal team jumped on. Now, this interview was posted all the way back in March of this year, 2 months after Jack made his video telling his story. And what Sienna had to say, y'all, think about how you would feel if any of this, again, was said by a man or even a less traditionally attractive woman. Imagine if Sienna didn't even look the way she looks, because the pretty privilege to me is something fucking fierce in this whole thing, and Sienna is using it to her advantage like she always done. That's why we got all them booty cheeks in that please cancel me, I wish you cancel me, I need you to cancel me. Like,
Okay, another episode of BFF, special guest Sienna May, second time on BFFs. Obviously, this one,
A little different.
not as great circumstances as the first time we had you on.
Now, I'm gonna stop you right there. This man, you see this man? This is the one, and thankfully only, Dave Portnoy. If you didn't know, Mr. Dave has also been accused of multiple instances of alleged violent SA by multiple women. Like, you can't make this shit up.
Because I've been accused of things, usually it's defense, and it's so untrue that I am now suing the people saying it.
Honestly, it's just like, who in the actual hell greenlit this? Like, did you and or your legal team really think that it was a good idea to go on a freshly accused assaulter's podcast to defend your own SA accusations? Like, do y'all just like braid each other's hair and talk about your favorite gaslighting techniques after harming and manipulating innocent people? Allegedly. So anyways, Sienna goes on to introduce her lawyer, Julie, and a forensic video expert, Marty, which is like...
But as for like the legal and like the so what's going on questions, that's for them to answer, because like I don't want to butcher anything. This is all like, now it's serious, you know, like...
At this point, it's just pure comedy gold.
The National Center for Audio and Video Forensics was retained to perform an analysis on a cell phone video posted to social media. I was asked if the video can be used as credible evidence of the accusations against Ms. Gomez. In short, no. The posted video is not credible evidence of these accusations.
I feel like that was a bad CSI video.
Yeah,
it's a crazy video.
And then chats about her Medium article, which she completely backtracks on any growth she allegedly experienced at the time of writing it, by the way, before diving into questions. Questions from another alleged abuser. I'm sorry, I have to laugh sometimes. Again, it's part of my coping mechanism. You're either gonna get petty or you gonna get some laughs, because I can't, like, I guess it takes one alleged abuser to interview another one. I mean, no cap, for real, hot fire podcast. Way to go, guys.
Motivation. Like, and it's something I've wrestled with, do you have any idea, like, why this is going on? Because it doesn't seem like there was some huge incident.
Because it doesn't seem like there was this huge incident. Like, bitch, where? The time in Hawaii? The time at the party?
When I was at a party, like, passed out.
The time through the window?
I was just chilling on my phone on the bed, and she got naked, like completely naked, and straddled me when I was literally just chilling on the bed.
That time? The video? Which time are we talking about?
Because it doesn't seem like there was some huge incident that would would have predicted any of this. So like why? Why is this going on?
Right, it's not like there's no way Jack's enjoying himself right now. Like, what would have been his motive?
I'm gonna make this really simple for you, BFF. The only likely motive behind Jack telling his story of survival of SA at the hands of Sienna, allegedly, was just that, to tell his story and to put his experience as a male survivor out into the open. There's no like boogeyman hiding under his bed telling him to ruin Sienna's life. And honestly, she's doing just fine. Jack's motive was to not be silenced. That's my interpretation.
Would you want to get to the bottom of it?
Like I would with the people who have accused me of things. I'd love to know.
But you know, at the end of the day, people want to know the dirt, the juice, the tea. Would Sienna ever talk to Jack again? In maybe the most believable part of this entire interview, Sienna says she doesn't think he would.
What was your initial reaction to Jack? Like, did you reach out to him? What did you say? What was that conversation? There was nothing?
So I haven't talked to him and literally since our last trip to Hawaii together.
Shocker. But you know, bless her heart, she's too emotionally exhausted to even consider it. And
I think if you told me today, like, oh, in an hour you have the ability to either like sit down with him or not, I don't think I could do that. Like, I think like, I just am so like emotionally kind of like exhausted from everything that this situation has brought that I just don't think I could like even want to talk about it. Like,
now she's not too exhausted to go on a nearly hour-long podcast and hash out the details, but she's too exhausted to talk to the victim. And you know what, Dave, since you're happy to have the alleged abuser on your podcast, I'll do you one better. Jack. Hi, Jack. I know we've said hi to each other a few times. I hope you're well. If you ever wanted to come on my channel for a sit down and just talk, the door is always open for you. We don't have to talk specifics. We don't have to rehash what you've been through, but I'd love to just sit down and give you a safe space and just talk about either what this experience has meant to you in sharing your story or how this might help another male survivor or just like anything, life. I'd love to chat, and if and when you're ready. I'm just putting that out there. Now here's the little section I like to call Consent is Sexy. Now, we've talked about the denial, we've talked about the statistics, we've talked far too much about the abuser, and now it's time we talk about the C word. Consent, y'all, okay? We're talking about consent. Get your minds out of the gutter. Unless there's consent, and then, hey, enjoy the gutter. Now, consent is an agreement between participants to engage in S activity. Consent should be clearly and freely communicated. A verbal and affirmative expression of consent can help both you and your partner to understand and respect each other's boundaries. Okay, so consent should be clear and communicated. Got it. And for the record, consent isn't always in sexy time context, but for the purposes of this dog, let's just roll with it. One of the biggest sticking points of this case is the idea of whether or not a relationship still requires consent. I mean, if you're an established couple, do you really need to check in with one another 24/7 about whether or not something sassy is okay, or is it implied? Now, from the male perspective, many men think that a woman sneaking in through the window and groping a dude she's in a relationship with is cool.
When I was sound asleep, she'd come into my room and I'd wake up to her hand in my pants, and it wasn't like...
That is so... She creeping through boy window and grabbing a handful. That's crazy. That's overboard.
Bro, that's nuts.
I did not need to hear that today.
Oh my god. I mean, that's like cool when you're in a relationship. Yeah. When you're dating someone, that is like the best thing you can do.
Best foreplay, that's sick. That's hype.
But on the other hand, if that person is asleep, they can't legally give consent to the action, right? So while it may be a fantasy that's lived out in the movies, is it actually okay for the average person? Honestly, it's tricky, and a lot of it depends on your relationship and communication styles, but here's what Rain has to say. Consenting to one activity one time does not mean someone gives consent for other activities or for the same activity on another occasion. For example, agreeing to kiss someone doesn't give that person permission to remove your clothes. Having S with someone in the past doesn't give that person permission to have S with you again in the future. For me personally, I think that this can go many different ways and that gender roles still still have a prominent difference in how consent with an actual relationship could work. Some would agree that it would be hot if in a committed relationship, but not everyone. Some people, I think probably more so women, could potentially look at that as still a violation of consent because you're not awake and not aware that it's coming. Pun not intended. Okay, maybe a little intended, but anyways. Something I learned recently that's helped me really understand consent and whether or not I have given or received it with a, sneaky dink or long-term partner is the FRIES acronym. Not real fries, unfortunately. But, if you're on your way to In-N-Out, would you grab me some? Okay, I like them well done, animal style. Kind of like I like my kink. Ayo! Okay. I'm sorry. Inappropriate, Swoop. What was I saying? Yes, fries. Okay. Freely given, reversible, informed, enthusiastic, specific. And I know enthusiastic is kind of out here throwing some curveballs, but let me break down that for you too. So simply put, enthusiastic consent means looking for the presence of a yes rather than the absence of a no. Enthusiastic consent can be expressed verbally or through nonverbal cues such as positive body language like smiling, maintaining eye contact and nodding. Honestly, y'all, I think the simple solution is to have a general conversation about consent and your fantasy life, your real life, all that shit. Hopefully soon before or after you become intimate with someone and establish healthy boundaries as best as possible. Y'all can leave the door open for spontaneity. Of course, we need spontaneity to keep the relationship and all that stuff, fresh, feel good. But also have safe words that give everyone an easy out if you're in a situation where you're not comfortable at that moment. It's going to be different for everyone, but one thing is for certain, you really should talk about it. And if you don't feel comfortable talking about consent, then I kind of hate to break it to you, but maybe you're not ready for a whole intimate relationship. You know what I mean? And that's okay. Auntie Swoops, just looking out for you. Okay? Class dismissed. Now, regardless of what did or didn't happen between Sienna and Jack, as I wasn't there, none of us were, and I'm just observing after the fact, I'm incredibly disturbed by the things Sienna said in not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, or is it 5? 5, bitch, I done lost count, okay? 5 response videos as it pertains to victims of SA. So even if someone watching was like, you know what? I believe Sienna is innocent. Even if you believed that and that were true, it still does not excuse the extremely toxic, diminishing, disgusting things she said essentially of all SA survivors and victims. Only time will tell if Sienna or Jack's legal team will push to take this to court, if Sienna's career will make a comeback, or if Jack's bravery will spark a new wave of SA education and research focused on male victims. I hope that we are contributing to that positive conversation with our community. I think we are. I love y'all for that. But there's one thing that keeps me up at night. Again, if the gender roles were reversed, if it was Sienna alleging being essayed by Jack, would Jack have lost more followers? Would fans be pressing for police charges? Would Jack even have a platform to defend himself? Or would Jack mostly breeze through it the way that Sienna is? Is that privilege? Good marketing? What do y'all think? Leave me a comment. I'd love to know your thoughts on all of that. Child, we need a kitty palette cleanser, okay? I'm sorry, they're actually not in my studio today, so here's some kitty B-roll. Now, also back to Petty University, be sure to grab your Petty University. Petty is my love language apparel from the new collection that's linked in the description. And please keep tagging me in your outfits when you get your items on Twitter and Instagram. It makes me so happy to see, and I'd love to feature you on my Instagram and Twitter. Couple of Twitter shout outs from my Amber Heard doc. First one goes to Mole Ann Miller, who says, another level-headed look into the mess that is Dep v. Heard. Thank you for flipping it both ways and making the doc clearer while also shutting down the misinformation that's spread about. I'm so happy that you got something out of this. And second shout out goes to Abby Rose Zipperhead, who says, I love how you approach hard topics with humor that still holds integrity closely. I have much respect for you. You do your best to keep an objective perspective that's hard sometimes while being honest to your audience, a feat that's a scarcity. Got the Swoop theme song down now. Abby, I hope you keep singing it with us, and thank you so much. If you want to be my next Twitter shout out, make sure to follow me on Twitter at SpankyV, linked below, and retweet this video right here. Also hit me up on Instagram, linked in the description. That's where I post most often and respond to a lot of DMs. Be sure to check out HelloFresh by going to HelloFresh.com and use code SWOOP16 for 16 free meals across 7 boxes and 3 free gifts, and treat yourself, honey. I want to take a moment to say something to Jack. Jack, thank you for sharing your story, and thank you for putting yourself and your experience in the public eye. My heart goes out to you, and I hope you are given the time and space to heal without fear of being harmed again or not believed. I don't know if this is weird to say, but I'm proud of you, and I'm always going to be here cheering you on from my own corner of the internet. Now, for the rest of y'all, listen, I know I've said this a lot, but shit, Cheryl, okay? I'm gonna keep saying it until all of you believe it. If you have been SA'd or abused, no matter your race, gender, age, orientation, identity, or otherwise, if you are a human being who was harmed by another, it is not your fault. I feel like some of y'all need to say that shit out loud, okay? Say it with me. It is not my fault. There is power in saying things out loud. When it comes to abuse, if you knew the person, it is not your fault. If you trusted the person, it is not your fault. If you were or are in a relationship with the person, it is not your fault. If the person is a relative, it is not your fault. If the person is a teacher, it is not your fault. If the person is a pastor, it is not your fault. If the person is a stranger, it is not your fault. If they are the same gender as you, it's not your fault. If they are a different gender than you, it's not your fault. If your body responded in a way that confuses you, it is not your fault. If you called them and asked them to come over, it's not your fault. If you were drunk or on drugs, it's not your fault. If you made initial contact and then changed your mind and asked to stop, it is not your fault. If you wore a short skirt, it is not your fault. If you already slept with them before, it is not your fault. If you were intimate with them after, it is not your fault. If you didn't confront them, it is not your fault. If you didn't report them, it is not your fault. If you were not able to fight back, it is not your fault. If you froze, it is not your fault. Seriously, if you take anything from this doc or anything I ever post, it is this. It is not your fault. It is not your fault. It is not your fault. Y'all got this. Class dismissed.